took a recent trip to Antigua, Guatemala. That has been touted as having the best Holy Week in Latin America. But you know what? I discovered that and so much more. And I can't wait to share some of that with you. I had been reading about how wonderful the Holy Week festival, I guess we can call it that, is in Guatemala, second only to Malaga, Spain. And if you know the story of Central America, Latin America, it is highly influenced by Spain because they were colonized by the Spaniards, Españoles, I guess they call them. But a lot of the cultural religious practices have their origins in Spain. So why did I decide to go to Guatemala? Well, I've traveled a bit, not as much as some of you, but I have decided for a while at least I'm going to stay south, close to where I am in Panama, and visit countries around closer to where I am. So Guatemala fits that bill, that description in terms of closeness and affordability. So that worked for me. I had not traveled for over a year and I was itching to go somewhere. Right. So I decided to go for Semana Santa because I had been enjoying so much the activities here in Panama. And I was like, yeah, let me go check it out and see how they compare. How does Guatemala compare to Panama in the processions and how they celebrate Holy Week? I have my notes so I don't forget. I want to give you an account of how my days went, how Holy Week went, not the whole not the whole Holy Week because I got there on Thursday and I left the following Tuesday. So it was very important for me to try to pack in as much, let me put my phone down, as much as I could because I talk with my hands so that you could see how wonderful a time I had. All right. If you are new here and this is your first time seeing me, yes, my name is Maggie. I love to travel. And in addition to talking to people about Panama, how to move to Panama, life in Panama as a single older woman, and you don't have to be single or older to watch my videos. I know some of you are married and you still watch me. I appreciate that. But I also like to tell you about my travels, right? So if you enjoy hearing about travels and also you are a single older woman wanting to relocate to Panama or somewhere close by, and who knows, anywhere else, I offer a lot of information on my videos. I've been retired here in Panama. Did I say that? For like over 3 years now, and super happy to be here. Very grateful and thankful. I am also the creator of SWRA, Single Women Retiring Abroad, a group of sassy older ladies who have made a conscious decision to retire here in Panama, live the rest of our lives here, age in place, grow old, create sisterhood community while we reinvent ourselves. But as I always say, the ultimate vision and goal of SWRA is to create a newer model of aging abroad that is sustainable and affordable. If any of this sounds of interest to you, I invite you to like the video, share it, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I thank you. I love to travel. I am naturally curious. My travels are not so much about the aesthetics of enjoying the weather, the sky, the mountains. I don't hike. But I'm more interested in the culture, the people. And of course, because I'm a cook, the food. I find that I can learn a lot about the people through their food and their practices. So I'm always up for that. So I decided to go on the eve of Good Friday and returned the following Tuesday, knowing that I could not fit everything I wanted to do. But after this trip and other trips, I think I realized that the best amount of time for me in any particular area, 5 days. 5 days works well for me. All right. So took a plane from Panama City to Guatemala City, which is the capital, and it was about a 2.5 hour ride, which is great. We do have a time lag between, if you wanted to look at EST, Eastern Standard Time, to Guatemala. So flight was great. But as soon as I got there, I felt a little bit of elevation. And yes, Guatemala City is about 5,000 feet above sea level. And if you look on the map, you realize that Guatemala is really close to Mexico. And I wasn't aware of that. I'm not a geography teacher like Miss Adelia, but I was like, oh, that's really close. And I still haven't made it to Mexico yet, which is on my list to go, but it was nice to see how close they are. Now, the Semana Santa, the things that really attracts me about the festivities, it's the procession, how they carry the barge holding picture of Jesus and Mary and all the procession and how do I say that? The whole idea of keeping those practices and the belief system, I'm very respectful of everybody's faith and practices. We have a lot of that here in Panama. And I experienced Easter here in Panama in Las Tablas a few years back. And I remember, it was an eye-opening exercise for me. And subsequent years, I have experienced them in our old town here we call Casco Viejo, and really marvelous. So it was more of a compare and contrast and really being open to the experience. All right. I stayed at a hostel, and if you watch my video about the hostel situation, not hostel, hostel, yeah, that I was like, don't do it if you're an older person. No bueno. Trust me on that. So you can go watch that. I think it's like a short video I did about that. But I got there on Thursday around 1 or 2 o'clock. I had booked a driver through booking.com, and it was nice when you got out of the airport and somebody's holding the sign saying Magdalene, Magdalene, like, hey, it's nice, as a single or solo traveler to make sure you have that. I could have taken an Uber, I'm pretty sure, but it was nice to have a driver. And I want you to know, as the plane was coming into Guatemala City, I realized how densely population it was. It was really tight and dense looking, you could see by the pictures. And I found out that the city itself has between 3 and 4 million people, which is the whole population of Panama. We have about 4.4 right now. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of people. And the whole population of Guatemala is about 17, 18 million people, evenly split between urban and rural. So Guatemala City is, I read that it is the most populated country in Central America, which, includes Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, Belize, Panama, and Costa Rica, 7 countries. It is the 3rd largest in Central America, but it is the most populated, most densely populated. All right. So after I checked in, for Semana Santa, the traffic getting inside Antigua, which is in the western part of the city, of the country, the traffic was horrendous. And of course, I had learned about how populated it is around this time of the year for the same reason that it is touted as having the best processions in Latin America. And that was true. It took us a while to get in, And when we got into, there were several road closures, which made it a little bit difficult. I ended up, my poor driver was circling around trying to get me as close to the destination as possible. And I ended up walking for like 8 minutes to get to the hostel because of the road closures. Good thing I only travel with a backpack, so it wasn't a big deal. But after I got settled in, and kind of taking it all in, the cobblestone streets and the architecture that most of the homes were like one level with some, what do they call that? It's not rooftop, but that they may have like an area on the roof where they have it's gonna come to me, where they have tables and some restaurants have seating there, terraces. Yeah, you could call it that. And then I heard rumbling that there was a procession. And it turns out that for the whole Semana Santa, which is Holy Week, that started like end of April, like 30th to like Easter Sunday, which was April the 5th. So they were having processions from Palm Sunday on every single day. The thing that was different in Antigua compared to Panama here is that they have multiple processions going on at the same time. That was a bit confusing to me because I'm like, well, I'd like to see it all, but you can't be in two different places at the same time. So you kind of pick and choose. So I find that a bit confusing. But yes, they have processions at all hours of the day. Some of them in the middle of the night, I could hear the tamborino and the music. Yes, that is different. And in their processions, they have these folks that could cucuruchos, the people who carry volunteer to be a carrier where they put the thing on their shoulders and then they're all dressed the same and then they move. It's just a sight, right? But we here in Panama, we have nice sizes, but some of those were really big and long. And the cucuruchos, they call the bearers, you could call them. They had different groups of people. They had males for some of the, what do you call these things anyway? Floats, they look like floats, but said they look heavy with the picture of Jesus or Mary or some kind of scenery, right? They have had instances where they have older ladies, right, wearing all black and the lace over their head, which I have seen here in Panama. And they've had some young people, young girls, and they've had some young boys. So it's like evenly distributed. And I remember reading about it in Panama that some people, it's almost like a pilgrimage, or if they praying for something, a penance, so to speak, and they volunteer and they have to practice because the thing, and I'm always like, oh my God, if that thing falls. The other thing I noticed also being close to them, I did not notice that here in Panama, is that they switch out. You see people standing on the side, and then after maybe a couple of blocks, they just go in and they grab, and then the person exits. So they switch out. And they wear different colored robes, right? Some of the robes cover their head. On Thursday, they wear up to like purple. So there was purple everywhere in the city, uh, in front of the buildings, on the mantle. So purple everywhere, meaning, from what I've read, it's like a sign of being in mourning for Holy Week, knowing that Christ's death was approaching. On Friday, the costume changed to all black because this is Good Friday, this is a somber day. And then on Sunday, it changes to yellow or white, which is nice. Okay, are you enjoying this? I get so excited when I when I learn about a country through their history. All right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I thank you. Antigua in Spanish means ancient, right? It was founded in 1524, of course, in colonial times, right? But Guatemala itself is in a very earthquake and volcano prone area. So it had gone through several disasters, whether it was fires or earthquakes or floodings, right? But in 1773, there was a major earthquake that pretty much destroyed the city. Some structures were saved, some were repaired, and some were not. We still have ruins, right? But at the time of the 1773 earthquake, Antigua, I think they call it Antigua de Santiago or something like that, was the capital of the country at that time. But after that earthquake that destroyed most of the city, I guess the people in charge the Spaniards decided to move the capital to where it is now, which is Guatemala City. I don't say Panama City, Guatemala City. But some of the inhabitants, some of the residents of that area that got destroyed, almost destroyed, decided to stay. And they changed the name to La Antigua. Antigua meaning the old Guatemala, La Antigua. So that's where the name comes from. So even though they have restored some of the structures, they still preserve the cobblestone streets, stucco, the buildings, kind of the architecture. So when you are coming down the street, you see this long stretch of road with those one-story homes on both sides, right? And that's very reminiscent of the Baroque era, and they kept that, so it's really nice. And I mean, what I've seen of Mexico in some parts where they have those big wooden doors, I'm a door person. I love that, so I'm always looking, and they have that. And one of my guides told me that the reason, some of the doors have different height because in the ancient days, people used to come in on their horses. So some of the doors had to be high enough for the horses to go through. Listen, I'm giving you the tea. And those are the kind of things that get me excited, learning all these little bits of history, right? Okay. So they move Antigua, they change the name to Antigua Guatemala. All right. Guatemala itself is called the land of volcanoes. I understand that there are a total of like 37 volcanoes in the whole country. My God. And in Antigua, around Antigua, we have about 3 of them. They have Volcán de Fuego, which is a fire volcano, and that one is active. It continues to spurt out, lava. Well, there's fire, of lava, fires. And the other 2 are dormant. The one that says Volcano de Agua, meaning water volcano, is dormant, and there's another one in that general area of Antigua, right? And it's funny because I was asking the guy, because the day I landed, someone sent me a message saying, did you see that volcano erupted? They don't call it eruption because it's like a continuous, regular fire eruption, not major. And my guide said, we like it that way. We used to it because we are thinking it's better that we get a little bit every couple of days than everything staying in and have the pressure build up and have an explosion. That could be catastrophic. I'm like, okay, that's a good way of looking at it, right? So 3 volcanoes, lots of volcanic activities around. I don't know exactly what geographical part of Antigua, but I did one tour, and I'll tell you what I did every day. On Monday, before the day I was supposed to return, and I took a tour around Lake Atitlán, which is a lake that was formed by a volcanic crater. It's a beautiful laguna, they call it. and it's blue, gorgeous, in multiple communities, Mayan communities around that lake that was formed by a volcanic crater. Isn't that great? It's just gorgeous. I love being there. All right. Told you about the population in Antigua. Again, my guy, because the moment I got in the car with the driver, I'm asking questions, and I do that wherever I go because I'm so thirsty for information to learn all that I can, and who else to ask but a native, right? Better than reading about it. I'm like, give me the scoop. Even when I first started coming to Panama, that's what I did. Don't you like these new glasses? I found them at a cheap store here, and I'm digging them. Oh, they look so nice. Um, so I started asking, and one of the guys said that because Guatemala is so close to Mexico, he said the Spaniards, they were exploring, came from Mexico, so they brought a lot of the Mexican culture to Guatemala. So you could be walking down the street, you're listening to Mexican music. The food is very well represented. Lots of tacos and wraps and tortillas. And of course, the tortillas are so prevalent in Guatemala as they are in Mexico. Corn tortilla, corn. There's another video I'm going to put out because there is a spiritual connection between corn and the Mayan people that account for about 40 to 50% of the population. That's a lot of indigenous folks in Guatemala, which make Guatemala one of the countries with the largest number of indigenous people. Keep that in mind. That's very important because everything in Guatemala has a lot of Mayan influence. Okay, the people, their style, their stature, their culture. All right, muy importante. Okay, so we talked about the architecture, one story with a terrace, yes, terraza, and cobblestone streets. But when you open the front door of any structure, and then there's a lot more behind that. That's the home with it's really spread out. Love that. I really like that. Let's see. For Semana Santa in Antigua, I have read that they get a bit more than 1 million visitors just for that week. But I want you to know when I got there on Thursday and I had that one procession, it wasn't so busy. But Friday, OMG, it's like somebody opened the floodgates and everybody came in. When I got there on Thursday, I love to just drop my bag and hit the streets, which is what I did. I just kind of started going here, looking for something to eat. I didn't know what kind of food was available, and everything was tacos. I am not a taco person. And then they had hamburgers. I don't eat hamburgers. It's like, oh no. And I knew I was going to look for a salad because something about the salad in this region of the world, that's no bueno. So I ended up finding a place and I got some chicken soup. Chicken is very prevalent like it is here in Panama. Lots of corn. I did not get the hang of that tortilla. That it didn't because tortilla and they warm and stuff it. I'm like, no, no bueno, no me gusta. I don't really didn't get a feel for the tortillas, but that's a lot of that. So over 1 million visitors compared to the regular 45,000 residents in that area. A lot of cars, a lot of motorcycle, not just the pedidos, which are the delivery people, but just people. Sometimes you go somewhere and you see them all lined up. So that is a mode of transportation for people in that area. Okay. All right. So I got some soup. And then, I guess I was tired. And then my saga started with the hostel. Okay, you need to watch that. It wasn't a bueno for me. Didn't sleep a wink. So I got up the next day. I knew that Friday was going to be a big day. And I had really high expectation for the December day. So they have multiple parks, people lounging around, and just like we do in Panama, if you go to any community across from the church, and in this area, it was across from the cathedral, there's a huge park. And the locals, foreigners, tourists, just kind of lounging around, and people trying to sell all kinds of things. And because Antigua is touted as being a really well visited area, so you have people showing the thing in their faces, ponchos and scarves and little bracelets and lots of hat. I got myself a hat, so I'll put a picture of my hat. I like my hat. And of course, we have Panama. We have hats in Panama. I think people love to wear hats here in the Americas. Yes, okay. And I learned from someone the other day that the hat that we wear here says Panama. He said the real Panama hat will not have Panama written on it. It's a different kind of hat, and I need to get one. All right. So, people selling all kinds of things, corn and French fries and mangoes and a lot of nuts. Woo! I love seeing that. They have these beautiful carts, and then you have different types of nuts, macadamia and almonds and stuff, and pistachios and all, and you can get a mix. I think I bought like half a pound mix. Yummy, yummy, yummy. And they have these cute little carts, and I think I'm going to post a picture of that. You could sell ice cream. They look like the Diablo Rojo. I talked about the cars and the mopeds. They also have those public buses that look like our Diablo Rojo, except they're like, I think they have verde, they're green. And then this guy said, you don't want to get on those because they drive crazy. And I'm like, yeah, the Serrata Passage, they do the same thing here. Drive crazy on those buses. So people get to and fro, the folks on there. All right. So the processions again were at all hours. So I know where I was, and on those cobblestone streets, you got to be careful. I was wearing some sneakers that had a little height, and even that I had to walk gingerly so that I didn't twist my ankle with something that could happen. So I really didn't care for that, that everywhere couldn't find a regular paved road until you kind of got outside of the city, or at least not in that particular area where I was. Okay. So the processions on Friday, and of course there was like a publication that told you where the processions would be. And I was like, why would you go there? They were coming from churches and from some schools and stuff anyway. So there were multiple processions on that day. The place was packed with people. But I have to tell you that I did not feel unsafe, not even once. And of course, I learned from what had happened to me here in Panama. And I was wearing my backpack in front and I had my crossbody. So it was like, like I said, you got me once, not another time, not a chance. So the processions, again, with different people carrying the float, swapping back and forth. Another thing I noticed with, I think we have it here in Panama, but lots of incense, that smoke. Listen, if you have a lung condition, that's going to be a challenge for you. I mean, it's heavy, heavy, heavy. Now, they do have a band that plays the music behind the float. The music was okay. I think the music in Panama is much better. Don't hit, but yes, because we have our policeman band here that is, very trained, and yes, but so the music was okay, but the floats were definitely beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Multiple. So sometimes if I see a group of people gathered, I'm like, something's going to happen there. And then I walk a couple of streets over, there's another group. All right. So what was the most important thing that I noticed with Semana Santa in Guatemala? This is the pièce de résistance, the alfombras. Oh my God. Alfombras in Spanish means carpet. So I read a little bit that the carpets that they create on the road is something that is very typical of Guatemala. It came, of course, from Spain in 16th, 17th century, but it kind of mixed with some Mayan culture because I told you about the purple that is hanging everywhere. When we went on Monday to the Mayan community, in addition to just hanging the not the rope, the cloth, right? The purple cloth, the purple and white, they were hanging like the maize, right? And they had pineapple. And I'm like, what is the significance of hanging the fruit with the cloth? And they're like, it's to express our Mayan culture. So with the alfombras, they use sawdust, they told us, and madera, which means wood. They color the woods, they bring them in bags, and then they decide what type of carpet they're going to create. And sometimes it takes families coming, multiple generations coming together. And the reason well, the reason, but what I noticed is that they would come with these models, of what geometrical form they want. They put it down on the ground and then they pour the sawdust. And then when they lift it up, then they would have the picture. I've seen a picture of Jesus. They have the Eucharist on there. They had buildings on there. It's amazing. They even had some, again, keeping in with the Mayan culture, they had some with vegetables from the land, they had fruits, they had pine. It's very, very artistic and moving and colorful and beautiful. Everything in Guatemala is colorful and beautiful. The Mayan ladies wear these beautiful skirts and the beaded shirt, where we have molars here, they have beads in the shirt, and then they all wear these white belts, beautiful belt. You don't see a Mayan lady walking around with pants. Most of them, it's like here, you could see the indigenous ladies, but some of the younger ones maybe wearing jeans and stuff. I saw most Mayan girls with their dresses. And then they have something they put in their hair, they wrap the hair. I have a picture of a little girl doing the wrapping. And I am told that the families are very intent on continuing their culture. They don't want to lose that, and they want to maintain their identity. 22 different Mayan groups in Guatemala. I was going to say Panama again. I have Panama on the brain. 22 groups, and they each speak their own native language. That means 22 Mayan languages, but they all, if not most, speak Spanish. So I am very glad that they have been able to preserve their culture. And they do the same thing here. We see our indigenous groups, we have 7 here in Panama, but they have 22. And out of 18 million, you're talking about half of that. That's a lot of Mayan culture in Guatemala. Keep that in mind. Okay? So Friday, I was a bit disappointed. I was expecting the procession to be a bit more. I don't know what I was expecting, but I keep thinking of the one that we have in Panama, and I don't think they have anything on us. No, no. The alfombras, we don't have. I'm telling you, Panama, if you start doing some alfombras, I don't know, maybe they'll think you're copying Guatemala. You could get to the second, spot, if not the first, seriously, because Panama does a fantastic job during Holy Week. I'm just saying, and I'm not just biased, okay? All right. So Saturday, the place kind of emptied out a bit on Saturday, which I'm like, aren't they staying for Easter? The big day was Viernes Santo. That means the Holy Friday. We say Good Friday. It translates to Holy Friday for them. And also, I am told that during Semana Santa, it's not just visitors. Locals come from other areas of the country to Antigua to celebrate because it is such a big event and celebration. Okay. And also for the alfombras, they allow some tourists to participate in creating the carpet, the alfombra. So I thought that was really kind of them. But you know what I find? I told you they have multiple possessions, so they know the routes and they'll create those carpets on the routes. So when the procession comes, they have the priests and other people, from the priesthood and the church. And once that procession goes over the carpet, they have a cleaning crew with brooms and stuff just sweeping everything. It's like a I'm like, you should probably leave it there. But once people's feet went over that sawdust and stuff, it disappears really quick. So I was a bit disappointed about that, but that's okay. I was having so much fun. All right, so Saturday was just exploring. So Saturday, are you still enjoying this stuff? I like to do this because I get so excited. But please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Okay? On Saturday, because it was quieter, that's when I think I had decided to move from my place to another place because I had gotten no sleep for 48 hours. That's no bueno. I'm old. I need my sleep, right? So I decided to take a walking tour. It was nice. I got a little bit of history. The guy was fun. He gave me the story about the structures. We look at the church La Merced. Um, and then I said, I did not have time to book a cooking class, which I try to do wherever I go. Hey, I'm a chef. I love cooking, and I need to learn from the food. So I did not have time because it was Semana Santa and I only have 5 days, and then you had a weekend in there. So that was logistically a bit challenging. So I said, is there a market there? Can you take me to the market? And he did. And it was a feast for the eyes, indoor, outdoor, fruits, vegetables, colors, energy. Yes, it was lovely, lovely. So I enjoyed that, and I have some pictures there for you to see. And again, not too many greens. I didn't see any spinach, but they had some green that they said they put in they call them stew. They have lots of soups, different types of soups. In fact, I think after my walking tour, I had him take me to a place and he said, I want something authentic where they serve authentic food. So he took me to this restaurant and I met the chef. We talked. He was a local. And then I said, well, give me a sampler. And the plate was a sample of the different stews. How did they say caldos? I forgot what they call them, but they use a lot of chilies there. I did not enjoy that dish at all. One observation with the food is that they don't eat as much rice as we eat here in Panama. El arroz blanco does not dominate the dish, and I love that. This cuisine is heavily Mexican influenced, but on a plate, you can have 6 items. They'll have like some veggies, grilled corn. I've had a piece of chayote and potatoes. They'll give you half of a potato. Then they'll have chicken. They'll have black beans. Oh, the black bean is delicious. And then they'll stick some tortilla chips in there that I can eat. The meat, usually if you want chicken, I tried one dish that was the most affordable with carne, beef. It was tough, just like it is here in Panama. No bueno. So it's like when my knife went a couple of times, it's like, leave it alone. Which really, I don't eat beef, but I was gonna try it, eat it there, but But then they would mold the rice in like a ramekin and then put it on. So it's not like scoops and scoops and scoops of rice. So for that, I am grateful. Let's see what else. They love avocado guacamole, which I'm all for. And then the tortillas, it's like a bite. No, I'm not feeling it. I did not like the tortillas at all because it's like there's no taste, no salt, nothing. It's like, no, no. Now give me a corn and a husk and I will eat it, which I have. Okay, so I enjoy that. And then in the evening, what did I do? Oh, I went walking, looking for something to eat. And I ended up at a Chinese restaurant. And then I asked for something, got something else, ended up being a lot of rice, rice, rice. It's like, okay, no bueno. So my food experience was not that great. All right. So Sunday, I was like, oh, Easter Sunday, we're going to have a celebration like we have in Panama with the bells and everything. No, didn't. They have an Easter Eve service like I experienced in Las Tablas here in Panama. And it was a 3-hour service, just like I experienced in Panama. This was nice. They dim the lights, and the churches have these big curtain-looking things that are really majestic, and they're really nice. And it was a lot of reading of passages from the Bible, from Genesis all the way to Christ's death and resurrection. It's like, a lot of repetition. Somebody else reads a passage, and it was like, oh, and that's exactly what happened in here in Panama. So I guess that's how they celebrated. And then this guy with the Spanish guitar was singing a song, and I recorded it. It was so, so, so nice. But it wasn't like a big bell ringing celebration. And I was like, that's different. That's different. Okay. And the next day, so when I asked the guy, and I'm like, where do you think I should get the service, La Merced or the cathedral? He said, I don't know. I like the La Merced better. So I did La Merced on the eve of Easter, and then on Easter Sunday, I went to the cathedral. And again, I was expecting what we have here in Panama. What happened in Panama is that they have two different floats that originate from different churches, different groups of people following them, and then like processions, and then they meet in front of the cathedral. It's like Jesus rose from the dead, and Mary is happy. Mary's on another one of those floats, and they come together, and then the bell starts ringing in Panama, and then they have confetti coming down, and everybody's singing this. I get chills now just thinking about it. Everybody's singing like, He is risen, hallelujah, whatever. I was like, and then I'm sitting inside a cathedral. First of all, I hear a lot of commotion out there. They are shooting fireworks on the ground, on the ground. And I wanted to see, but I could not get out because otherwise, like disrespectful. But the service was kind of boring. But they still had processions out there from different churches, so I missed some of that. So I was a bit disappointed in how they celebrated Easter Sunday at the cathedral. I'm thinking of Santa Maria de la Antigua here in Panama, how the Monsignor is there, people are singing, and I get so emotional the 2 times that I went, and people with family, because everything is a family event, and people were hugging each other, just swaying to the music, and very grateful. And here in Panama, there's a lot of fresh flowers everywhere with the churches, and some people take some of that. So, Panama, Panama, yes. Okay, so Sunday, what did I do? What did I eat? I don't remember. I think I probably spent some time in the at the hotel where I was. I think I didn't do anything. And again, the crowd had died down on Sunday. And that's why I was able to find a place, because when I was looking originally, and that's how I ended up in that hostel, everything was booked. And what you could find was like $300-400 a night. And sister cannot afford that right now. So that's why I ended up in the hostel. And I know somebody said, well, even I know at my age, I wouldn't stay in a hostel. I didn't plan to stay in a hostel. It was just the place was booked. All right. Okay. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So on Monday, then, that's when I took a tour of Lake Atitlán. And that was, I want to say, a good hour and a half. I booked it again through booking.com. The driver came on a nice van and picked me up at 5:30, and I was on time. he had a hard time finding one person, but anyway, we got to a place called um Pana, Panahachel, Panahachel, which is on the outskirts of that lake, Lake Atitlán. Lake Atitlán is a lake that was formed by the volcanic crater. It is about 340 meters deep. It is the deepest lake in Central America. Ooh, 350 meters deep is about 1,100 feet deep. And no wonder when you're looking at that lake, it looks like a beautiful blue. And I think the deeper, it is the bluest, the bluer. And then the guy said, it looks blue. The water is not blue. It reflects the sky. Makes sense. And it is about 18 kilometers long and 8 to 10 kilometers wide. It's a huge lake, beautiful. But you have Mayan communities all around that lake. And of course, with most volcanic area, they have a lot of coffee farms surrounding that area. So I was excited. We took a boat and we visited two communities. We visited San Juan, Laguna around the lake, and then we visited Santiago Atitlán. Two communities, Mayan communities. I'm sure they have others, but what I like about those communities is that they were self-sufficient and they created some different co-ops to generate income for their communities, right? So I rode a tuk-tuk. My bladder did good, held together. And the colors, the people, of course, they're trying to sell you all kinds of things. And I think in one of them, we ended up at a place where we ordered lunch and the service was so efficient. The food was coming out. They have it to a system, to a T, right? That's where I had the beef that was, it said Nacional, Nacional, because just like here in Panama, the beef that is imported is more edible. The local is tough. I don't understand that. I can look more into it. So we got presentation. One community had a co-op about honey, where they harvest honey and created multiple products based on honey, even eye drops, things for your chest, for your skin, all kinds of things. And then there was another one that was a gallery, with the Mayan culture. And the guide said none of these kids or whoever paints those had gone to art school. Everything was learned at home in their communities, just talking about their culture, which is lovely. And then we had another presentation about cloth and what do you call that? They take the cotton and textile, right? And I bought my cardigan from that. So I felt that the prices were a bit high, but when you think about you helping the community to sustain itself, I didn't mind paying what I paid for it. But it was a beautiful day of learning. And of course, they had a lot of elevation. And these COVID lungs were saying, ooh, you got to be careful, sissy. Because as toward the end of the day, I was really hyperventilating. My heart rate was fast because it was too much elevation. So don't ever invite me to go hiking really high. I couldn't do it. I'm going to be hiking again on Con Hill, but that's not hard. I can do that one. So I feel that this trip afforded me, yes, I saw with my eyes how they celebrate Semana Santa in Guatemala. I was excited to see the difference between how they celebrate there versus Panama. I still think Panama does a pretty good job. The only thing that was a big aha for me was these alfombras. They are a sight to see the colors, the vibrancy, and the way they come up with it. I love that part. And I said, next year, I'm going to go to Malaga, Spain, and see. They really go all out. If it's possible, I'd like to do that to experience that, even though I don't want to go back to Europe, but yes. So I feel that I've learned a lot about the um, Mayan culture. I can't say that I can speak intelligently about Guatemala because I was only in one area. I would have loved to have a tour of the city with my driver. My driver going into Antigua was really engaged and knowledgeable and talkative. Going back to the airport, I had a driver who was falling asleep at the wheel. He was like correcting, and I'm like, oh, we don't get to that airport in one piece, por favor. So I kept going, making noise. Because I was in Puerto Rico one time and I had a guy who had a big fat neck, like he had sleep apnea and he was falling asleep. So I kept tapping and saying, Señor, Señor, aeropuerto. Let's make sure I get there in one piece, por favor. Oh my God. Wasn't my time yet. So I learned that Guatemala is so close to Mexico. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't look at the map until I was ready to go. I understand the Mayan culture, the influence, because people, this is their land, right? They were here before us. I learned some about the food. Okay, yeah, different from Panama, but the Mayan beliefs in many gods. And another thing that one of the guides said is that tranquilo also is in Guatemala, where people don't stress about stuff. They enjoy their simple life, but he said they also like alcohol. He said it, I didn't. And even we went to and watched a place. I'm like, is that a replica of the homes that the Mayan people live in? He said, no, this is an altar where they offer libations or whatever to the gods. And there were multiple bottles of booze there. So that's part of what you give back to the gods. So yeah, wow. And I'm always very respectful of everybody's culture. I don't have to have an opinion. I'm grateful to be able to experience it with them. The food, the music, I talked about that. The heavy influence in Mexico. Music, I heard Mexican music, and he says they like salsa and cumbia from Colombia. I didn't hear reggaeton. We got the reggaeton here, so we'll keep our own reggaeton, okay? Tranquilo, I call visitors. I also asked the guide, what are the things that you are famous for in Guatemala? What products? He said, uh, azúcar, sugar. He said, um, oh my God, cafe. Yes, cafe and bananas. Cafe, bananas, and azúcar, sugar. So wherever you go, el café, wherever you go in these Americas, I remember being in Chile, it was café, café, café. But when I tasted the café, Panama, I prefer Panamanian coffee. I'm just saying, I may be biased, but I'm a coffee snob. Or my taste buds react differently to the coffee here, which I absolutely love. Like we have a little cafe next door to my building. Today I was there seeing with a sister and they opened a bag and I was looking to see what the brand, but it came in a big white bag, so I could not see what brand they use, but I love their coffee. So visitors, when you go, and I think Antigua is a place that you could visit, even if it's not during Semana Santa, you would enjoy the whole spirit of the country. And they have a beautiful arch in that town in between La Merced and another part of the city. And the story was that they had none. It was what do they call that? Their homes, where the nuns were, and the way they created the arch so they can go from one side to the other. Lots of history there. All right. Lots of ice cream being eaten, just like I saw in Peru. People love to eat ice cream, helado, and they have these little cute carts to sell helado. The fruits were crazy. The mangoes, oh, it was torture for me not to eat some of those mangoes, but they were cutting them and I didn't see gloves. I'm like, let's wait. because I don't ever want to get sick when I go visit someone. They love the French fry. They cut them big like you do sweet potatoes, and then they pour ketchup on it. And I don't do ketchup, so I was like, "Ooh, okay." And potatoes, they have not too many varieties, but they do have it on the menu. Not so much bread, but tortillas. Okay, tortillas replaces bread, and mangoes, French fried, tostadas. They do a lot of tostadas where they have the chip, large chip, and they pile it up with everything, including boiled eggs. I find those not easy to eat because you take a bite and everything disintegrates, and I'm like, oh, and I don't like tacos. So anyway, traffic, we talked about that. Of course, I was doing a very special time. But after the Friday, Good Friday, traffic flowed very easy. They have nice signs, but those cobblestone streets, when you get in a car, and I'm like, ooh, that must be hard on the cars, right? Anyway, I am so excited I got to kind of share my trip with you. And I know I did some lives every so often to see you, the volcanoes, the Volcan de Fuego is beautiful. Temperature, they were just like us. They have a rainy season and a dry season. But even though we're in a dry season, the temperature was like in the 70s. In Peru, it got pretty chill at night. It did not get so chilly here in Antigua. But they say, you might need like a little light jacket because it gets fresco, fresh, but not cold. But the room also, not at the hostel, but in the posada where I was, which is an inn, they had like some big, heavy blanket that you could use if it got cold, but it never got that cold for me to use that. So I was so excited to experience Semana Santa, to see the alfombras being made up close and the variety of them, the significance of them. I was very pleased to visit an area that had gone through so many different changes due to natural disasters and keep its original structures and history. So I feel blessed to be able to experience those things. So as I said, next year, hopefully Malaga, Spain. But if not, I'm sure I'm going to find myself somewhere else. I'd love to go back to Chile. I love Chile. I haven't been to Colombia, haven't been to Mexico. But, I like to go on my own and just experience. I don't like curated group travel. I don't. But that's just me, right? Know thyself, know thyself. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to hear more about my travels, how I approach traveling with an open mind and a desire to absorb and to learn the culture, keep watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye.